Let's be honest. We all know those classes or those meetings, training sessions.
Yeah.
The ones that could use a little more oomph, something to get people excited and involved.
Yeah, engagement is key, especially when it comes to learning and retaining information.
Exactly. So today we're taking a deep dive into how Creighton University, it's a private research university with around 9,000 students. They're in Omaha, Nebraska, and they're using a tool called Vevox to boost engagement. They've even got a second campus in Phoenix, Arizona. And what's really fascinating is that they're not just using Vevox for classes, they're using it across the board. Staff meetings, faculty development, the whole shebang. So we're going to get to look at its impact from a bunch of different angles today.
Yeah, Creighton was actually looking for a single platform. They wanted to replace a bunch of different polling tools that their faculty were using. Because you can imagine that this hodgepodge of systems, it was confusing for everyone, especially students.
All right, it makes sense that they wanted to standardize things. So Vevox is this interactive polling platform. But it's not just simple yes or no questions. They've got live polls, Q&A, word clouds, quizzes, and a bunch more.
Yeah.
I'm curious, though, what made Creighton ultimately choose Vevox over all the other options out there?
Well, they did their research. They were looking for a platform that was easy to use for both faculty and students, that integrated well with their existing systems, and had great customer service. Accessibility was also a big factor for them. They specifically wanted a tool that had features like alt text for images, to support their visually impaired students.
It sounds like they really thought about the needs of their entire community. Did they actually say what impressed them most about Vevox specifically?
Yeah, so Lou Jensen, she's the Associate Vice Provost for their Center for Faculty Excellence. She said that as soon as they started talking to the Vevox team, they knew it was the right fit. Like, it just ticked all the boxes.
Okay, so they found a platform that was user-friendly and accessible. But how does Vevox actually make things more engaging? What are the features that really get people participating?
One feature that really stands out is the anonymity option. So you can actually answer polls and submit questions without anyone knowing it was you.
Well, it's interesting. Why is that so important?
Well, think about it. In a classroom setting, some students might be hesitant to participate for fear of being wrong or judged by their peers, right? But anonymity removes that barrier. So it really encourages everyone to contribute their thoughts and ideas.
That makes a lot of sense. Everyone has a voice, but not everyone wants to shout it from the rooftops. I can see how that would be particularly helpful for students who are, say, neurodivergent. They might feel more comfortable expressing themselves without the spotlight.
Absolutely. Randy Bibbins-Clark, she was the Director of Academic Success at Creighton. She actually highlighted that benefit. She was saying that it creates a much more inclusive learning environment where everyone feels safe to participate. And it's not just about feeling safe, it's also about getting honest feedback.
How so?
Well, as students know that their responses are anonymous, they're more likely to be truthful, even if their answer isn't what they think the instructor wants to hear. So this gives instructors a much more accurate gauge of student understanding.
So it's not just about participation for participation's sake. It's about creating a space for authentic engagement and learning. That's really powerful.
Exactly. And Vevox doesn't stop there. They offer a variety of polling types to keep things interesting and cater to different learning styles.
Oh, like what?
Well, they have your standard multiple choice polls, of course.
Oh.
But they also have word clouds, picture polls, and even a like feature for student comments.
Okay, break those down for me. I'm intrigued. Especially by the picture polls and likes. What's the deal with those?
Picture polls are particularly useful in visually oriented fields. Jessica Goodman, a faculty member in their physical therapy department, she raves about how helpful they are for anatomy lessons. So instead of just describing a bone or muscle, students can actually point it out on an image.
That's a great way to make it interactive. I imagine it helps students visualize and remember the information better, too. What about the like feature?
So it's a simple but effective way to create a sense of community and encourage peer-to-peer learning. Imagine a student posts a thoughtful comment in response to a question. Seeing a bunch of likes pop up from their classmates, it can validate their understanding and encourage further discussion.
It's like a little boost of confidence, right? Like, hey, I'm on the right track here.
Exactly. And for the instructor, those likes provide valuable insight into which comments are resonating with the class.
Goodman mentioned that she also likes using word clouds.
Yeah, word clouds are a fun and engaging way to brainstorm ideas or get a quick sense of student opinions. They're visually dynamic, with the most frequently used words appearing larger on the screen. It's a great way to see patterns and themes emerge in real time.
All those features sound really cool, but how do they actually connect to learning outcomes? Is Vevox just a fun add-on, Or does it really help students learn?
So Vevox is a valuable tool for what educators call formative assessment. Basically, it's about getting feedback on student understanding as they're learning, not just at the end of a unit or course.
So instead of waiting for a graded test, students are getting constant feedback through these polls and activities.
Exactly. It allows for those aha moments to happen in real time. Students can see immediately if they're grasping a concept, and if not, they can ask for clarification or adjust their approach. This can be incredibly empowering for learners.
I bet it takes some of the pressure off, too. It's less about right or wrong, more about understanding where you are in the learning process.
Right. And for instructors, formative assessment tools like Vevox provide invaluable insight into what's working and what's not. Like, let's say you do a quick poll and you see that a large percentage of students are struggling with a particular concept. That's a signal to adjust your teaching approach or spend more time on that area.
It's like having a constant pulse on the learning environment. You're not just lecturing into a void. You're getting real-time feedback from your students and can tailor your teaching accordingly.
Precisely. It transforms the classroom into a more dynamic and responsive space.
So we've talked about how Vevox is being used in the classroom, but I know Creighton is also exploring its use beyond the classroom, right? In staff meetings and faculty development.
That's right. They're already using it for voting in meetings, which is a practical way to make decision-making more inclusive and transparent. Everyone has an equal opportunity to voice their opinion.
That makes sense. Giving everyone a voice, especially in a meeting setting, it can lead to better decisions and a stronger sense of teamwork. I'm curious to hear about how they're using it for faculty development.
Yeah, so they're exploring ways to use Vevox to make those sessions more interactive and engaging. For example, instead of just having someone lecture at faculty for an hour, they can incorporate polls and quizzes to gauge understanding and encourage discussion. They can also use it to gather feedback on the effectiveness of the development program itself.
Oh, that's smart. So instead of assuming the program is meeting everyone's needs, they're actually getting data to back it up. What about student feedback? How did the students at Creighton react to using Vevox in their classes?
Well, Creighton was proactive in gathering student feedback. They held meetings and focus groups to hear directly from the students about their experiences. And the response was overwhelmingly positive. Students appreciated how Vevox made their classes more interactive and engaging, and many felt that it helped them learn more effectively.
Do you have any specific examples of student feedback?
Yeah, so one of the most compelling examples comes from Tanya Plater's online class. Students reported feeling more connected and engaged, despite the virtual setting. You know, in a traditional online class, it can be challenging to foster a sense of community and interaction. But Vevox really helped bridge that gap.
So it wasn't just about making classes more fun. It actually helped students feel more connected and engaged, even in an online environment. That's a pretty powerful testament to the impact of this tool. What do you think is the most important takeaway from Creighton's experience with Vevox?
I think for me, it's the emphasis on accessibility and intentionality. They didn't just adopt Vevox because it was the latest and greatest tech tool. They carefully considered their needs and the needs of their community, making sure that it was accessible to everyone, and aligned with their goals of creating more inclusive and engaging learning environments.
Yeah, they went beyond just adding a shiny new tool to the mix. They really thought about how it could best serve their community and made a conscious effort to implement it in a way that would benefit everyone. It makes me wonder how Vevox could be used beyond education, like in business settings or community organizations. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think the principles behind Vevox, fostering engagement, gathering real-time feedback, and creating inclusive spaces, those are all applicable across a wide range of contexts. Imagine using it in a business meeting to brainstorm ideas, make decisions, or get employee feedback.
Yeah, you could even use it at a community event to gauge opinions on local issues or get input on planning initiatives.
Exactly. It's about creating a more participatory and dynamic experience, whether you're in a classroom, a boardroom, or a community center. And that brings us to an important question for our listeners. How could you use interactive polling in your own field?
I love that. It's not just about Creighton's success story. It's an invitation for all of us to rethink how we communicate, learn, and work together. Let's say our listener is a teacher. How could Vevox help them take their teaching to the next level?
Well, we've already touched on some of the benefits for educators, like fostering student participation, gauging understanding, and creating a more inclusive classroom environment. But let's get even more specific. Imagine a history teacher wanting to engage their students with a primary source document. Instead of just having them read it silently, They could use Vevox to create a series of interactive questions that guide their analysis.
That's so much more engaging than just lecturing about the document. It turns a passive reading assignment into an active learning experience.
Exactly. Or let's say you're a science teacher introducing a complex concept. You could use Vevox to do a quick check for understanding poll to see if students are grasping the key ideas.
And if a lot of students are struggling, you can adjust your teaching right then and there. You're not just moving on and leaving them behind.
Precisely. It allows you to be much more responsive to the needs of your students.
I'm also curious how Vevox could be used in a corporate setting. What are some creative ways businesses could utilize this tool?
Oh, the possibilities are endless. You could use it in team meetings to brainstorm ideas, gather feedback on projects, or even conduct quick polls to make decisions more democratically. It can also be a valuable tool for professional development training.
Yeah, instead of those dry, lecture-based training sessions, you could incorporate interactive quizzes, polls, and word clouds to make the learning more engaging and effective.
Exactly. And you can use Vevox to collect data on the effectiveness of the training. Are employees actually retaining the information? Are they satisfied with the content and delivery?
Yeah, that data-driven approach can be really valuable for improving future training programs.
Absolutely. It's about moving away from assumptions and gut feelings and toward a more evidence-based approach.
It sounds like Vevox could be a game changer for anyone who wants to make their work, learning, or even just their everyday interactions more dynamic and engaging. We've seen how Creighton University is using Vevox to transform its learning environments and gather valuable feedback. What stands out to you the most about this deep dive?
You know what impresses me most is how Vevox at its core is a tool for empowerment. It gives a voice to those who might otherwise be hesitant to speak up. Whether it's a student in a classroom or an employee in a meeting, it levels the playing field and creates opportunities for everyone to contribute their ideas and perspectives.
I love that. It's not just about making things more fun or efficient. It's about creating spaces where everyone feels valued and heard.
Exactly. It's about leveraging technology to build stronger connections and foster a sense of shared purpose.
And that's something we can all get behind, no matter what field we're in. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Creighton University and Vevox, I'm left with a sense of possibility. It's inspiring to see how a tool like this can be used to create more engaging and inclusive experiences, whether it's in a classroom or a boardroom or even a community setting.
Yeah, it's a great reminder that technology is at its best when it's used to empower people and break down barriers. Vevox isn't just about fancy features, it's about creating a space where everyone feels comfortable sharing their voice.
Exactly. And it's about giving people the tools to not only share their voice, but to also see the impact of their contributions. Imagine a student seeing their comment get a bunch of likes from their classmates, or a team member witnessing their idea being voted on and adopted in a meeting.
Right, that kind of validation, it can be incredibly motivating and empowering. It reinforces the idea that everyone's perspective matters and that it can make a real difference.
I think that's a powerful message to leave our listeners with. We've talked about the features and benefits of Vevox, but ultimately it's about so much more than that. It's about reimagining how we communicate, learn, and work together.
It's about embracing the power of engagement and feedback to create more inclusive and dynamic experiences for everyone involved.
So for our listeners out there who are intrigued by Vevox and its potential, what would you say is the best way to explore what it has to offer?
Well, the beauty of Vevox is that it's incredibly user-friendly. You don't need to be a tech whiz to figure it out. I'd say the best way to get started is to simply dive in and explore. Create a free account, play around with the different features, and see how you can adapt it to your own needs.
Yeah, don't be afraid to experiment. Whether you're a teacher looking to spice up your lessons, a business leader wanting to make meetings more productive, or a community organizer hoping to gather input from residents, Vevox has something to offer.
And who knows, you might just discover a new way to engage your audience, gather valuable insights, and make a real impact.
So there you have it, our deep dive into Creighton University and Vevox, a tool that's not just changing the way we learn and work, but also redefine the meaning of engagement and empowerment. Thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery.
It's been a pleasure.